Don't you think that Donald Trump is getting so much involved with the mindset of Europeans, and in terms of the new arms, sending new arms to Europe, and the way that they're trying to somehow invest in the US economy? I don't know if they're going to be capable of doing, but they're talking about it too much. Things are happening considering whatever they're doing, European leaders are doing, considering the United States, they want something in Ukraine. They want the policy in Ukraine to be modified the way they want the US policy to be. And don't you think that would make some sort of barriers, obstacles for Donald Trump?
No. What can Europe do? Nothing. You saw Ursula von der Leyen when she met with him. So intimidated, she had to lie. She was so intimidated by the need to be seen as making a deal that she lied about $600 billion. There's no $600 billion. Donald Trump believed the lie. Apparently, he's running around talking about how I have $600 billion, no strings. I can do whatever I want with it. I build a golf course. There's no $600 billion. She had to go out immediately and say, yeah, no, there's no $750 billion either of energy. No. 3 years, $250 billion each. No. Europe's not buying $250 billion worth of energy from the United States. Last year, Europe bought $76 billion worth of energy from the United States, and that sort of maxed out their capacity to handle it. The United States only produced $310 billion worth of exportable energy last year, and that was going to everywhere but Europe. And now you're saying the United States is going to drop all those contracts, all the contracts in Asia and elsewhere, to divert it over to Europe. They can't handle it. Even if the United States was able to flow all the liquid natural gas into Europe, there's no place to receive it, to deliquefy it, to get it into the system, long-term storage. None of it exists. So it's a made-up number, fake. But that's what Donald Trump does. He lies about everything, just made-up numbers. So right now you have the Europeans just going out there and just making stuff up. But it's not real. It doesn't change anything. Ukraine's screwed 6 ways from Sunday. I mean, you can sit here. People, just stop believing anything that comes out of Europe. Stop. It's all a lie. They even, this whole, what do they call it? Pearl, P-E-R-L or P-U-R-L or something. I don't know, this new Department of Defense thing. Basically, it's the scam of scam of scams. Hey, Europe, you already bought something from us? Give it to Ukrainians and then buy the replacement from us. So you're paying for the same thing twice. That's what it is. I mean, that's the scam. Nima, you just bought a car. Okay, I want you to give the car away to your uncle and go out and buy a new car. You pay. Your uncle wants a car. Give him your car. Go out and buy a new car. You pay. And that new car is going to be on standby in case your uncle wants it again. Is this a good deal for you, Nima? But that's the deal that we gave all of Europe. That's it. And the Europeans went, oh yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Europe's got nothing. There's got in order for Europe to have something, they have to have leverage over us. They have to be able to pick up the phone and say, we need you to do something right now, Uncle Sam. That's not how this works. Daddy talks, the little babies listen. That's it. That's the relationship. Daddy, baby, daddy, baby. And I hate to say that, except Mark Rutte thinks that Donald Trump is NATO's daddy. And Donald Trump's more than happy to, I think he even printed up a t-shirt. It says daddy and got his picture on it. This is where we're at, right? So there's just no obstacles coming out of Europe. Europe's got nothing. Nothing. It's embarrassing. You saw the humiliation of Keir Starmer and his wife coming to the castle, going to the king, the American king. This is just stupidity in the extreme. Paul, I wish there was something more intellectually sound that I could say about this, but what do you say about people debasing themselves? The Europeans are nothing. They've got nothing. Tell me one thing the Europeans have. One, just name it. See, yep, Europe can deliver the following. Nothing.
Yeah. I would argue the only thing that they have is the hatred toward Russia, and nobody knows the reason of that.
They don't even have that, though. You can't say Europeans. That's a European. 16% of the Germans would fight for their country today. 16%. Tell you what, if America ever gets to the point where 16% say, yeah, we'll fight for our country, it's time to wrap it up, cash it in. I mean, if you're a male of fighting age and you call yourself an American, doesn't mean you have to join the military right now. But if somebody invades your country, you have to be ready to go to war right now, drop everything and go to war and give your life. That's what being an American is all about. That's what being a citizen of anything. I would imagine, you live in Brazil. Are you a Brazilian? I mean, I don't mean to get personal here, but do you have Brazilian citizenship?
Yeah. Yeah, I
All right.
have.
So if Brazil was invaded, Argentina comes across the border. They're coming in, and they say every man capable of holding a weapon has to come to the defense of Brazil. I think you'd find a way to do it, because that's what you do in the country you live in that they call yours. The Germans, you have Merz pretending he's the Fourth Reich. 16% of the Germans say, yeah, we'll fight for this. And I bet you that's a high percentage throughout Europe. I've had this conversation with people before. The European Union destroyed Europe in so many ways. But one of the main ways they destroyed Europe is that Europe stopped being real, because the European Union's fake. There's no such thing as European citizenship or a European identity. There's not. But what they did is they created this fake identity, and people forgot who they were. They forgot that they were French. They forgot that they were German. Thank God the Italians got Maloney, so the Italians at least know that they're Italians. But that's probably more due to the mafia than anything else. At least the mafia is proud of being Italian. But all these nations, the Portuguese, they just run all over Europe trying to get jobs. They're not going to fight and die for Portugal. In Spain, you got the Catalonians will fight and die for Catalonia, but Spanish people going to fight, and nobody's going to die for Europe. Nobody's going to die for Europe. I mean, so this is just stupid. But in Russia, Russian men are volunteering to go to the special military operation to get this thing done. They're volunteering by the tens of thousands every month. And if you invade Russia, as Germany and NATO are saying they might have to do, it's all over. Every man comes out of the woodwork, and that's it. You have to kill every Russian, and you're not going to kill every Russian. History has shown that when you piss the Russians off, they end up taking your capital city. Ask the French, ask the Germans.
Scott, you mentioned Brazil, and we know that India is right now, Donald Trump applied secondary tariffs in India, and they're doing the same to Brazil. If you want to make BRICS weaker, what would you do? Do you go fight all of them together, or you go fight one by one? Because the way that Donald Trump, we have to understand the mindset in Washington, because we have to be honest with ourselves. Is there any rational process of thinking in Washington? Because when you attack Brazil doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in the Middle East, in Ukraine, nothing. They try to negotiate, they try to talk with the United States. But after all, you don't see that sort of mindset in Washington to understand that.
I would look. Trump had BRICS on the ropes. Just take a look at the last BRICS summit. It was held in Brazil. Lula wasn't able to advance very aggressive policies because there was domestic pushback. Saying, no, India's sitting there having a tussle with China, and India's on the ropes. Do we want, we're not really all in on this thing anymore. So if I were Donald Trump, I would have went, all right, I need to incentivize Brazil and India. I mean, we have $1 trillion defense budget. I would have declared a national emergency. And I would have gone to India, and I said, what are you paying for Russian oil? How much Russian oil are you buying? All right, I'm going to work it. You're going to get all the oil you need at the price you need. I'm going to sell you subsidized American oil. We're going to get other people to sell you subsidized oil. We're going to meet the Russian price, but you don't buy Russian oil anymore. You buy from us. What can the Russians do at that point in time? You didn't sanction them. You just did better business. Now the Russians come in and go, well, we're going to cut our price even more. Well, isn't that what Trump just said he wanted? I want a $10 drop. Isn't that the cap that the Europeans said they wanted? We want to put a cap on how much money the Russians make off of oil. Instead of spending billions on weaponry that gets thrown out, you want to starve the Russians out. You're not going to do it with China, but with India, who went from buying 3 to 4% of their oil came from Russia a couple of years ago to 40% this last year. No, just subsidize alternative oil. Subsidize it. Make it competitive. It costs us money, but I thought the goal was to break the Russians. That's how I would have broken the Russians. I would have just said, yep, they need the oil. Let's make it impossible. And doing the secondary sanctioning, now you've threatened the sovereignty of India. And India can't go for that. They can't. There's no way they can do that. If I wanted the Indians to break away from Russia, rather than saying, you can't buy the S-400, I'd just say, your next purchase will be THAAD, right? Because we're going to offer to you great terms. We'll give it to you. We'll give you a THAAD. You want the best F-35? You want the F-35? You got it. Heavily subsidized. We're just going to throw them at you. And basically, you take the arms market away from the Russians. You take the oil market away from the Russians. Not by threatening anybody, just by going in there and outbidding them. It costs money. It's an investment. But what are we doing now? We're sanctioned. We end up paying those sanctions, the American taxpayer. We don't accomplish the mission. We end up isolating ourselves. We make ourselves irrelevant. It's not a sustainable business model. I mean, we can't do it forever, but how many years do you have to strangle the Russian oil, the oil export market before the Russian economy blinks? That's the question you have to ask. But Trump is incapable of doing that. I'm not saying it's 100% guaranteed of success, but there's a hell of a lot better chance of success. And the other thing you do there is now you create a problem because India now starts buying American oil or, oil not, and that BRICS relationship starts to get strained, starts to get frayed. And now you can start pulling India away and you incentivize India to stay with the G20. And maybe one of the things you talk to the Indians about is, hey, how does G8 sound? That 8 used to belong to Russia. But what if we went G8 and that's you, big boy, Modi, Mr. G8? How's that look? If you want to break BRICS, you don't attack them all and force them to come together, which is what Trump is doing. You find the weak link, India, and you do whatever you need to bring the Indians out of BRICS. And when you do that, it starts to collapse. It's no longer, you take the Indian economy from BRICS, it's a huge hit. BRICS keeps bragging, justifiably so, about, the fact that their total GDP is more percentage than theirs. But remove India from that argument no longer flies. I mean, you got China. China's, a big deal. But if BRICS is just seen as a Chinese play toy, that's not as attractive at this point in time as, this multipolar entity. India brings, an attractiveness in terms of other nations saying, yeah, we want to be part of that. That's why you see Thailand, applying. You see Malaysia applying, Indonesia becoming a member. This is because of India, because of Indian membership. And so all Donald Trump's doing right now is guaranteeing that India now, when they look to where to go for help, it's going to be BRICS. They just made India a steadfast member of BRICS. I personally am happy. There's going to be a lot of people that are, shut up, Scott, don't tell Trump how to do he's not going to do it, guys, so don't worry about it. But I think it's time for, a multipolar reality check. But I'm just saying that, if I were advising the president and was told, we want to achieve something, what the president's policy is achieving the exact opposite of what he wants to achieve. And what he's going to do is make America not the indispensable nation, but the irrelevant nation.